Today is Sunday, September 17th, 2023, and this is the Dunkley Report. Nearly 1 in 10 of America's unionized auto workers went on strike Friday at Detroit's 3 automakers. They are seeking higher wages in an era of big profits, and as the industry makes a costly switch from gas guzzlers to electric vehicles. By striking simultaneously at General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, the United Auto Workers Union is trying to inflict maximum pain. The strikes were limited to 3 assembly plants in Michigan, Ohio, and Missouri. Union President Shawn Fain says more plants will be added if the companies don't deliver better contracts. The workers are seeking 36% higher wages over 4 years. If the United Auto Workers strike isn't settled soon, consumers will see higher prices for new cars, and not just the ones from Detroit. On Friday, union members picketed outside a Ford plant, a General Motors plant, and a Stellantis factory. Right now, the automakers have big inventories, so most analysts say there shouldn't be an immediate shortage of cars. But if the strike drags on and dealers lose manufacturer incentives to cut prices, car buyers will be in for another round of sticker shock. If consumers can't find a Ford, GM, or Stellantis vehicle, they'll have to turn to non-union competitors like Toyota, Honda, and Tesla, which will be able to raise their prices. In the months since a single senator froze military promotions over the Pentagon's abortion policy, the uniformed officers affected have been largely silent, wary of stepping into a political fray. But as the ramifications of Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville's freeze have grown, more of them are speaking out. This week, some of the military's most senior leaders took the issue head-on and voiced their concerns. They say the damage will do to the military will be felt for years, as young, talented officers decide they've had enough and choose to get out. New Hampshire's primary tradition may be little more than a fairy tale in the 2024 presidential race, as the Republican presidential field largely overlooks the state in favor of Iowa. Most of the candidates are focusing their money, time, and attention on Iowa. They're betting big that the Midwestern state's religious conservatives are best positioned to help stop former President Donald Trump's march toward another Republican presidential nomination. As New Hampshire's prominence appears to fade in 2024, it's unclear whether there will be sufficient oxygen or opportunity for anyone to emerge as a serious Trump challenger in the state, long known for political upsets. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has inspected Russia's nuclear-capable bombers, hypersonic missiles, and an advanced warship on a trip to Russia's Far East that has sparked concerns about an arms alliance that could fuel President Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. After arriving in the city of Artyom by train, Kim traveled to an airport just outside Vladivostok, where Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and other senior military officials gave him an up-close look at Russia's strategic bombers and other warplanes. Later in Vladivostok, Kim was shown a missile frigate of the Russian Pacific Fleet. Kim's visits to military and technology sites possibly hint at what he wants from Russia, perhaps in exchange for supplying munitions to refill Putin's declining reserves. Small-scale, tech-based solutions to transportation problems have emerged as a great equalizer in the battle for infrastructure dollars between big cities and rural communities. The projects are known broadly as microtransit, and many of them rely on smartphone apps to summon rides like Uber and Lyft. The difference is this is a public transit service, and the cost to the customer is usually a fraction of what private companies charge for rides. The city of Wilson, North Carolina, ended its bus service in September 2020 to offer on-demand van trips anywhere in town that are now just $2.50 per ride. Even during the pandemic, ridership surged 300% in Wilson. Atlantic storm Lee has made landfall in Nova Scotia, Canada, at near hurricane strength with sustained winds of 70 miles per hour. U.S. weather officials say the storm's center came ashore about 135 miles west of Halifax, Nova Scotia, or about 50 miles southeast of Eastport, Maine. The storm brought high winds, rough surf, and torrential rains to a large swath of New England and maritime Canada, toppling trees, swamping coastlines, and cutting power to tens of thousands. One person was killed in Maine when a tree limb fell on his vehicle during high winds. Forecasters say the storm is expected to weaken as it moves into New Brunswick and the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Libya's top prosecutor says he has opened an investigation into the collapse of two dams that caused a devastating flood in a coastal city. Rescue teams were still searching for bodies in Derna on Saturday. It has been nearly a week after the deluge killed more than 11,000 people. Heavy rains caused by Mediterranean storm Daniel caused deadly flooding across eastern Libya. The floods overwhelmed two dams, sending a wall of water several meters high through the center of Derna. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed and people were swept out to sea. The Libyan Red Crescent says that more than 10,000 people are still missing. Searchers are digging through drifts of mud and hollowed-out buildings looking for bodies and possible survivors. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has been acquitted of all charges at his impeachment trial. The verdict Saturday reaffirmed Paxton's durability in America's biggest red state. It's also a broader victory for Texas's hard right after an extraordinary trial that underscored fractures within the GOP nationally. Paxton was charged with 16 articles of impeachment accusing him of misconduct, bribery, and corruption. He was accused of using his office to help a campaign donor who was under FBI investigation. He still faces trial on felony securities fraud charges and remains under a separate FBI investigation. Supply problems and insurance complications have made it difficult for many patients to start and stay on new prescription medications used to treat obesity. Doctors and patients around the country say getting on the high-demand injectable drugs requires persistence and a fair amount of luck. Patients often have to call several pharmacies to find a supply, or be prepared to drive 45 minutes or more. Some insurers also have scaled-back coverage, but doctors say both coverage and supply issues should smooth out, although it may take a couple years. Today's news was reported by the Associated Press. This has been the World News for Sunday, September 17, 2023. Thanks again for joining us at The Dunkley Report.